Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Červená Barva Press reading series. And I'm really excited about the readers we have tonight. So let's start with our first reader, and that is Deborah Leipziger. She is an author, poet, and advisor on sustainability. Born in Brazil, Deborah's poems have been published in 10 countries. Her poetry collection, Story and Bone, was published by Lily Poetry Review Books in 2023. She is the author of several books on human rights and sustainability. Deborah has had residencies from the T S Eliot House and received grants from the Mass Cultural Council and JArts. Her next poetry collection, Tell Me, is forthcoming in 2026, also from Lily Poetry Review Books. She is the founder of the Lexicon of Change, a guide to the language we need for social and ecological transformation. And I give you Deborah.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to be here, and I'm a huge fan of Gloria's and all the work that you do. Thank you. It's really wonderful to come together with poetry at this time. So I'm going to start with some poems from Story and Bone, and I will also share some poems from the new collection that's coming out next year. This first poem is called Sugaring, and it's after the Sudanese American poet Safia Ehio. And I like to think of this poem a little bit as a family tree or a small memoir. Sugaring. I was made of almonds and sugar, of giving and receiving, of coastlines dug deep with departure, of boats and boundaries seeking refuge. For my nonna, all desserts began with recreating home in a latticework of marzipan. I was born under dictatorship, under the light of the Southern Cross, dissolving into coconut and clove, tangled in the umbilical cord. My mother told me no one would ever love me like she did. Now I know she was right and wrong. My daughters, born of gingerbread, under a coup divorce, hold the light, the dark of my countries. Thank you. This next poem is called What is Home? And I wrote it after visiting the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Boston, the ICA. And it was an exhibit about what is home and migration. And I was so impressed with it that I went to see it twice. What is home? A house made of kites and orchids bleeding is home. Language and story, color is home. Home is story, memory, and the bones I carry. A library where books bleed into each other. Green valleys, cobalt feathers, golden letters on their spines. I want to let the stories pour into me. I did not know that everything would be taken away. Only later did I learn that my grandparents sewed gems into the hems of their clothing for each border crossing. Written on skin. In cursive script, your kiss licked indelibly on skin. The umbilical cord coiled around my neck pulsates on skin. The forest willow for the violin, music etched on wood, on skin. The scar from my twin's birth echoes the rain written on skin. Numbers from Auschwitz, blast furnace on skin. The parchment of history of sacrifice, branded on hides, stories on skin. Buildings collapse in Bangladesh, grafted on skin. Gems faceted by stone, hidden in garments, etched on skin. Your touch on my earlobe, fingerprints on my face, Deborah, written on skin. This next poem is called Inheritance. Where do you end and I begin? I once lived in your body, your blood in my veins, your grief grafted onto me. I carry your sadness like lichen, growing over itself in layers, into the cavities of the trees, its lacerations, etching maps of ancient forests in the trees until your pain is mine. You gift me your grief, filigree, and interlace parts designed by perforation. Transcribed in hieroglyphics, I am caught in your spirograph. Pain has its own beauty, a patina of verdigris, the birch trees with its eyes covered in snow, the false eyes of fish and butterflies. Nature washes wounds as salt forms a delicate crust on the waves of melancholy rage. Your a gift to me. And this poem has a lot of love poems, and I'm going to read one of them. I love epistolary poems, poems that you write, kind of a letter format poem. This is 2S. Draw me a map of your body, your tender places of longing. Guide me through your Atacama desert. Take me through the disbelief, the fingerprints that caused you pain. Guide me through the caves into the canyons. Let us enter the caldera and traverse this newly created earth. Let it be unspoken, this current from broken to whole, unbound, a spool never quite wound again. Let it be untamed, like the undiscovered species creeping through the mangrove, silent on the pause of night. And this next poem is called Lobo, and Lobo means wolf in Portuguese. And Lobo is the nickname of an indigenous leader, Paulo Paulino Guajajara from Brazil, who was one of the guardians of the Amazon. And he was killed tragically by illegal loggers. Lobo. I guard the forest, its canopy of reflected stars, the morpho butterflies, the blue moons, bromeliads, the fish, the roots of trees drinking in the river. I guard the forest, the children of the tribe. I guard the canopy with its toucans, parakeets, emerald. I guard the forest floor with its snakes. I guard the mating jaguars. I knew they would kill me. I could not have imagined that it would be a shot to the face, that my body would be left in the forest. Now you guard the forest, its canopy of reflected stars, the morpho butterflies, the blue moons, bromeliads, the fish, the roots of trees drinking in the river. You guard the forest, the children of the tribe. You guard the canopy with its toucans, parakeets, emerald. You guard the forest floor with its snakes. You guard the mating jaguars. And this next poem is a poem that I wrote at the Museum of Fine Arts, and it was part of a workshop given by Kristen Hill, who's a wonderful poet from the Boston area. And it was an exhibit by the Chilean artist and poet, also, she's a poet and an artist, Cecilia Vicuña, really wonderful artist and poet. And the prompt that Kristen Hill gave us was to write about someone as a forest. And so this is you as a forest. I listen to the shelter of you, the sweeping canopy cradling the day and night of me, the moon rising in your branches, the stars falling into the sweep of your hair. I see the feet of your forest, the fingers, the limbs, the concave and convex of you, the light that falls around us. I smell your maple, fern, ivy, the light, serpentine, falling through the rings of redwoods. And I want to share two poems from my new collection, which is called Tell Me. And they're the first two poems of the collection. And this collection has a lot of environmental poems as well. Love poem for my body. Listen, and you will hear my rainforests, shaking canopy of nesting hummingbirds. The waves of my body release shells, oval and spiral. If the body is mostly water, then here are my archipelagos, bays, and canals. Mil cuerpo with its apertures, tasting the world. Follow my river veins to their tributaries and deltas. Trace the map of my body, hemispheres and countries echoing of shell. People say that refugee is a first language, and then a spoken language comes second. But I say my body is my first language, my consonants and vowels speaking myself into being. And this last poem that I'm going to read, tell me, what are you most afraid of? Tell me, and I will give you shade. Yes, I know of the many ways to die. Heat, thirst, flood, lightning. Why fear growing old? I have witnessed your life. There are so many ways to live. Remember, you grow rich in many currencies: light, generosity, energy, kindness. Protect me, and I will provide cover, connected as we are by need and nearness. I will cover the frozen ground with my leaves and weave my branches of color over your darkness. Come, rest with me. Thank you.
And our next reader is William Walsh. He has published 11 books, including his recent novel, Haircuts for the Dead, and Flannery O'Connor's Andalusia, the Georgia Dairy Farm and its influence in her fiction, forthcoming in April 2026. His work has appeared in AWP Chronicle, Cimarron, 5 Points, Flannery O'Connor Review, the Georgia Review, the Kenyon Review, Literary Matters, Michigan Quarterly Review, North American Review, Poetry Daily, Poets and Writers, and many other magazines. He is the editor of the James Dickey Review, and I give you Bill.
Thank you, Gloria. So this is my new novel, Haircuts for the Dead. It took 38 years to write from the time I started it when I was very young until recently. Um, I didn't have the skill or the knowledge to write this book when I first started it, but I kept at it over time. I'm going to read some sections of it, but basically it's about a young girl whose family has a farm. They are a bunch of racists. She's not. And the father sells the farm, and when that happens, the family kind of scatters. And this opening scene is when um, the father and the mother go to the bank to deposit this multi-million-dollar check. Um, on the day that Hannah's parents went to the bank to deposit the farm check, seeing how the thrill of showing it around town had worn off, her mother refused to sign the back of the check. She asked the branch manager to open a new account in her name. Lilith, you sign that goddamn check right now and put it in our account, or I'm going to knock you into next week. See, this is what I've put up with for 28 years. The manager had to close his door when Lilith and Darnell, when she told Darnell she said she was leaving him, since he was causing such a disturbance. How you getting home? You gonna walk? I'm leaving for good. Where you gonna go? I'm leaving, and if you think you're getting any of that money, signing those papers is the only way it's gonna happen. Right there in the manager's office, Lilith handed him an envelope with a thick heft to it. What the hell's this? Divorce papers, she said, quivering. Darnell raised his hand to hit her, but did not. If he had, Lilith was prepared to press charges. The manager called the security officer to settle Darnell down, but even he had to call the local police. The security guard was within a squirrel's hair of hauling him off when the deputy sheriff, Albert Lovell, showed up and Darnell came to his senses. You had to call that asshole? It'll take a lot more than Albert to take me in. Having lady problems, Lovell asked. Can't be money problems. I've heard from 20 people that you've been flashing that check all over town. I'm surprised you ain't been jacked or started building a house on the moon. Having Lovell at the bank settled Darnell down, but he wasn't happy when the manager deposited half the money in Lilith's account and the other half in Darnell's. This ain't over, Darnell said, directing his finger at her over and over as if he was hitting the same letter on a keyboard. Lilith, the bank manager said, you'll have to pay about 40 to 50% in taxes on this money if you don't buy a new house or reinvest it. We can help you manage the money. You'll have between 750,000 and 900,000 after taxes, but that has to last your entire life. It's your retirement. Don't think of it as play money. You need to plan for the future. Retirement? What the hell is she going to retire from? She ain't never done nothing but clean house, and she's not good at that, Darnell barked. The security officer, at the request of the manager, gave Lilith a ride home. Officer Lovell volunteered to accompany them. Without money over the years, she was always too scared to leave. She didn't have any resources and couldn't support her children, but now all that was different. She packed her clothes, a few bags, the family Bible, and grabbed a box of family photographs and a big box of school artwork her children created throughout the years. Since the first day that selling the farm became an option, she planned her escape and had all her stuff packed under her bed or in the back closet ready to go. She had even sorted through all the family photos and separated Darnell's family from hers. She wasn't taking anything resembling him with her. This was not how she envisioned running away, but it was good enough. When Hannah and Lucas heard the yelling and screaming outside their house, it didn't seem out of the ordinary, but when their mother started packing and talking about their father nearly getting tossed in jail, they perked up. Instead of returning home rich and happy, their mother had a crazed look in her eyes, as if she was running away from the hounds. Their father and Albert Lovell stood in the driveway with the security guard. Hannah followed her mother from room to room as she grabbed her belongings and pulled things from the closet and out from under the bed. She had never seen her mother so determined and thought she might never see her again. Now that we're rich, we're going out to celebrate, her father yelled when Lilith brought some boxes out to the security officer's car, trying to entice her to stay. Good times are on the horizon. I'll buy a steak dinner for anyone who walks on 2 feet. For anyone who wants bullshit promises all your life, Lilith interrupted. Why do you have to rain on my parade? We're going to Longhorn Steakhouse. We're going to live like kings with people waiting on us and saying yes, sir, and no, sir. We're going to be treated like royalty. Darnell turned to the security officer. Did you think this went well at the bank? I thought it did. Hannah's father could not convince Greta, her older sister, to return home from California for her share of the money, which everyone knew was nothing. Her father wasn't sharing. Their older brother Wendell was in the military, and your old man striking it rich like Jed Clampett isn't reason enough for time off in the army. Her daddy's expectations were flying high, but when he was put in his place by her mother and in front of an important man like the bank manager and then Albert Lovell, he could not tolerate it. Hannah, Lucas, their mother said, you're old enough to make this decision, but if you're coming with me, pack your clothes. I'll give you 15 minutes. I'm leaving the devil's paradise for uncharted territory. Lucas said he was staying on the farm, but Hannah ran to her room and packed everything she could fit into two suitcases, knowing she could always return for the rest of her stuff. Her mother could never come back, not without a beating waiting for her. Hannah and Lucas were weeks from starting the 11th grade and had just turned 16 when their house was divided down the middle by loyalties. Hannah and her mother walked out of the farmhouse into the security officer's car, turned around, and looked one last time at their old life before driving off. That was the last time Hannah's mother set foot on the farm. And as Hannah looked at the house and as the car pulled away, she swore the white paint faded to gray and began to peel the second the tires hit pavement. This is what it would have been like if Eve had been the only person banished from Eden, Lilith said. Can't you imagine how different the world would be if Eve had been on her own from the get-go? As they were heading down Highway 19, Lilith asked the security officer to drive her to a nice hotel. He suggested the the DoubleTree in Antioch, near the highway and the Target. That'll work. She took several deep breaths, closed her eyes, and sat on her hands to keep them from shaking. It was a good 10 minutes before she said another word. She stared out the window at Stone Mountain, watching little specks of people walk up the granite trails. That's my old life, and maybe my heart is full of bruises too deep to heal, but I got to try. Before me is new territory, a new life, and there isn't a damn thing I want from this old life except my children. Everything else is just stuff. Maybe you can talk to Lucas and Greta about moving in with me once we get settled in a new place. When Wendell visits, he can stay with us. Nature shows you that all things die and rot, no matter what it is. Remember this, nothing lasts. During the drive, Lilith asked the security officer if he would burn the farm down to the ground for $500. They laughed, but Hannah knew her mother was serious. So I'm going to read just this last part on, let's see. There's a small part. Where'd it go? Okay, so this last section it's the very end. Hannah, who thought she was just going to cut hair at the salon and meet some boy and fall in love, actually was doing research for a long time at the library. And the woman at the library, Margaret, always helped her. And Hannah actually fell in love with Margaret. And so this is the two of them running off to get married. Late at night, while Margaret and Hannah drove up Interstate 22 to Memphis in Margaret's Camry, the song Girl Crush blared from the speakers while the two women laughed and sang. A few minutes later, Janis Joplin sang, "Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends." I love this song, Hannah said, but truthfully, I don't want a Mercedes-Benz. I did at one time, but if God wants me to have one, he'll give me one. What if he gave you one? Margaret asked. I suppose I'd drive it, but that's not what brings me happiness. This right here, with you driving down the road to Memphis, singing songs on the radio, and being free from all the rotten stuff in other people's lives that we're supposed to deal with. I don't need that. Most of all, knowing that God and Jesus love me makes me happy. You know what makes me happy? Margaret asked. Yeah, Neapolitan ice cream. Very funny. Just because I ate the entire quart the other night doesn't mean it makes me happy. In fact, it made me sick. What makes me happy is seeing you happy after all you've been through with Hawkshaw Bales. He's the bad guy. When I look out this windshield, I see all the lights way off in the distance. To me, that's God's steady light bringing us home. Hannah fussed around in the glove compartment for a piece of paper and pen, and a few ideas came to her. An idea for a story, even though she never thought about writing something made up. She remembered a short story from high school about a family that was shot and killed by a misfit man, and how the grandmother was an irritating person. Hannah couldn't remember the title, but thought how the family was out for a Sunday drive, kind of like she and Margaret. If they had only had a gun, she figured, they could have defended themselves. Danger lurks everywhere, she thought. It's in the cracks of a teacup. In the 10th grade, she read a short story for Mrs. Brown's English class, An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. And just like the man about to be hung, she escaped the situation and ran back to the family farm, only to be pulled out of the dream at the very second when her hand touched the doorknob of the house. Hannah often felt this would happen to her and Margaret, that somewhere in the shadowy black background of the world, someone was pulling the strings to yank her into all the horrible situations that she had endured. When she told Margaret this, Margaret assured Hannah that they had a clean slate ahead of themselves and that she would not allow anyone to do that to her. In the glove compartment, she found an envelope with Margaret's vehicle registration and a half-chewed pencil. She took down the registration papers, straightened a few creases, and placed them in the envelope, and then into the vehicle service book. Then she stared out the window at the vast terrain of land and thought how the world was comprised of how far a person elected to see. Sometimes the tree line held their eyes in check, and they couldn't see beyond the swaying limbs and glittering pine needles. For 30 minutes, Hannah and Margaret listened to an 80s station, and Hannah gazed out the window, unable to remember any Bible verses that were appropriate for her life right now, as if the entire slate had been wiped clean. Nothing came to her. As Margaret's Camry passed a farm, she read aloud what was painted in whitewash on the side of a barn and illuminated with lights. Will you enter the kingdom of God? It sparked a thought. Hannah pulled the registration envelope from a service book and jotted down a Bible verse in pencil. And this is Corinthians 1. It's 6:9. Don't you know that those who do wrong will have no share in the kingdom of God? Hannah folded, folded the envelope in half, and then in half again, turned it sideways and slid it into the front pocket of her jacket. Looking out the window, there was no moon, only stars, and the sky so black a person could run away and be lost in the white ruins of the world. She rolled down the window and stuck her head out, feeling the cold rush of air push her hair back and dry her lips to a shiver. She sucked the cold air in through her teeth. The ocean of air froze her ears, and the noise drowned out the stereo and Margaret singing Open Arms. I wonder if this is what Mary felt like when she and Joseph traipsed along with a donkey in search of a place of comfort. Hannah looked up into the deep pitch of the sky at all the stars, stepping stones to the map of life, she thought. God's beacon for me, the light from billions of years ago, guiding her travels as she ran off into the future. She was following the night flares to some new place she had not known existed. Where she was going could be anywhere, and she welcomed the mystery and adventure because she knew she was not making the journey alone. She scribbled on Margaret's registration papers, "My document of life number 2." And then from John 16:33, she quotes, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. You will have suffering in this world. Be courageous. I have conquered the world." And that's how it ends. So thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And our next reader is Lee Woodman. She's the author of Scapes poetry series, Homescapes, Mindscapes, Lifescapes, Artscapes, Soulscapes, and winner of the 2025 Independent Press Award, Gold Award for Poetry, Universe, and IPA 2023 for Distinguished Favorite in Poetry. She is also the winner of the 2020 William Meredith Prize for Poetry, the 2021 Atlantic Review International Poetry Competition Merit Award, and first prize in Poetry and Prose Contest for Carve Magazine 2022. And I give you Lee.
Okay, can you see and hear? Okay, that's terrific. Thank you so much. And it's just so nice to be with you, Gloria. So I have a series of books that are all under the umbrella of scapes. And what that means is landscapes of all different kinds, from literal to landscapes of the mind and the heart and the senses. So I'm going to read a few poems from a few of the collections, starting with those are the books. Starting with where I went to school in India. I think this was about 1952. We were there for 10 years and starting a madras. And I am in the right there in the second row with glasses on. And this experience just has really just permeated my life. Here was the banyan tree we used to have classes under. Here, another street scene of India, typical street scene. And here I am at about 12 years old. My mom and dad took me on a trek up to the Rotang Pass, which is the pass between India and Tibet. And the poem is called Climbing the Rotang Pass. There are a few words that might need some explanation. One is deodar, which is a kind of cedar tree. And the other is Kulu Valley, which is on one side of the pass, and the Spiti Valley, which is on the other. Barely 12, I understood how daunting the climb. Rotang Pass, Himachal Pradesh, border of India. Elevation 13,000, a 3-day ascent. Stay over at 2 base camps, canvas tents, oolong tea. Small trekking party with mules and supplies, practiced Sherpas scanning for snow, deadly landslides. Difficult terrain to the south, Kulu Valley, forests of deodar. Rocky rubble to the north, Spiti Valley, jagged peaks. Throughout the years, those who chanced the crossing learned that Rotang Pass meant pile of corpses. The gods' mountain jealously guarded that name. Human beings attempting to change it were met with silence. Dad's photo of me when I reached the pass, stretching out prone on top, corduroy pants, woolly jacket, Tibetan cap. I felt airborne into China, hovering over mounds of ice. Perhaps those frozen souls below had chosen to stay there. The rush of wind, vast, endless view could drown us all. A sensation of snow under our bellies for the rest of time. The second India poem, I went back to India 47 years later with my husband, and we went to Varanasi, which is a very holy city for Hindus where they go to die and bury their dead, cremate their dead near the river Ganges. Here's a picture of that. Is there a poster in the way of the picture? No. Okay, great. All right. So, visit to Varanasi 47 years later. As I find my way down a steep, filthy alley, a bony cow with dung on her hind hip pushes past. My guide, Bina, waits in a wooden rowboat below, her head loosely wrapped in a light purple shawl. 2 thin oarsmen row us out, bumping through clusters of boats that gather at sunset, vying for sightlines. Blazing funeral pyres dot the landing. Lopsided dwellings press against crenulated temples, crisscrossed by swarms of electrical wires. Lights throw rippling reflections, darting, fingers reaching. Bina says miniature clay lamps can be set free in the black water, a holy way to bid farewell to the dead and dying. My cupped hands tremble as I lean over the side and lower them into the Ganges one by one. The first lamp carries a candle for my father, who forms his own vanishing stream in the current. 3 yellow marigolds for my mother follow swiftly, forming rivulets back and forth across his wake. This poem is from a second book called Mindscapes. It is a sensual body poem told through an orchid. Orchid. The orchid is perfect, climbing the stake, tall and straight. It unfolds and gently arches over, with 4 sweet blossoms and pale green buds that promise to grow. Pink petals inside white, golden tendrils inside pink wave, tickling the air, awaiting company. I arch my back on silken sheets. His breath is slow. There is only endless time. Warm fingers travel the arch, nuzzling over creamy hill and strawberry nipple, trailing downward to softening petals below. What once was cool melts with a promise of lush oil. As stem meets blossom, tendrils tremble and yield to sweet pain. This is another poem from Mindscapes, which is really a collection of wishes, lies, and dreams from a woman's point of view. And this one is called Spirit. Call me Hecate, I travel by night, my broom casting spells upon men. They wonder why I must take flight. Compare me to fleet Aphrodite, crooning love songs as she ascends. Call me Hecate, I travel by night to conjure new schemes I raise to incite, aware that the change I require offends. Small wonder that I must take flight. Antigone warns by sharing foresight how women can stand unrepentant. Call me Hecate, I travel by night. Explore, rebel, to create is my right. I need warriors, willing kings to attend, not wonder why I must take flight. Hearken the wild man, the lover and knight, who pushes me higher, delights in my pen. Call me Hecate, I travel by night. As darkness descends, I bloom and take flight. My book called Artscapes is a collection of poems inspired by art and art, visual art, dance, music, theater, and words actually. And I'm just going to show a picture of one of the Mark Rothko paintings that I did, but go on to read one of my favorites, which is Paris Through the Window by Marc Chagall. I especially love Chagall. This is an imaginary visit of me going to his home. I'll show you a few details because I love these, this picture of him floating down out of the atmosphere, and this picture of a double head, which to me says 2 different ways, laughing, sobbing, 2 faces, balance and counterbalance. So I'll go back to the wonderful wide shot. The underside of color. Chagall invites me to his house. He knows I love this painting. He leaves the front door open. I arrive early. Seated on the right side of the parlor, locket in my palm, I wait. Chenille, nervous cat, emerald green tail, sits on the sill listening. Shouts from the street are loud. One side of the window is open. Aromatic warm baguettes, clinking cups from the cafe below. Colors roar across the sky. Swaths of vermilion, streaks of royal blue, icy white shafts illuminate the sky, turning the Eiffel Tower shimmering white. The spire shares light with rows of dollhouse dwellings and wraps a beam around the right side of my head. Et voila! We're startled by the oncoming whoosh of Chagall's parachute rushing towards us, plummeting down toward his floral back chair at home. He lands, offers absinthe. He's happy, he's sad. He had a vision of his parents descending, miniature black horizontal figures floating head to head, bickering in joyful Yiddish. They stay with him everywhere, wave as he passes. They know he loves Paris, beautiful Bella, and why he paints fish and fancy fiddlers and harlequin clowns. Behind buoyant colors, someone is saying Kaddish. Sadness seeps from the city smokestacks. We sip, melding into lament. Chenille jumps down, slinks to the kitchen, sniffing for herring. She knows Chagall adores her, comes back to rub her neck up his trouser leg. He's laughing, he's sobbing. Fantasy and gravity counterbalance. My two heads, two hearts, weep with love and contradiction. The next is a definite change of tone. This is from a book, Lifescapes, which was about going through separation and divorce during COVID. I had a very bad accident and lost sight in one eye. It was different than fainting. It's not what you imagine, how darkness covers. You can't know, can you? You pay attention to something else, then it happens while you're watching. A moment before the strike, total concentration on a task, a careful task, the grasping for a grandchild's hand, you step from the tub, resounding thud, head to ledge, lower teeth rattle. You search for sight, yet only hear the child singing. Oh, athlete, no longer will you be sure-footed on the track. No more will you take 2 steps at a time. Between composing countless stanzas, you left the web of family. Blackness drove the lights out. You must know it could happen. Flash of a second. The before, the after of forever. And before I read my last poem, the penultimate one will be evidence that you can get over tragedy and you can fall in love again. Strange currency. If I could buy a sunset, I'd be rich in your scent, a dusting of salt and black opium. If I could purchase the memory, I'd wrap it in featherweight lace to keep it almost intangible. If I could retain the passion, I'd think of the moment I blurted, "I love you," and you responded. Ever rich, I'd swim in the tenderness of amplified feeling, up breaths of excitement. I'd replay the evening on the beach, your palms grazing my ribs, smoothing down my hips. For this, I'd pay a gazillion starfish and pockets full of doubloons that chime. The last poem is from a new book that will be coming out in very soon, hopefully before the holidays. And it's called Colorscapes. And I studied the sources of color, where they come from, shells and rocks, the psychology of color, and how artists use color. And this is another persona poem about silver. It's the last poem in the book. Silver is more than a color. I am silver. Who are you? Are you intuitive and insightful too? I am silver, symbol of purity, a precious ore of color that's sparkly. Included in the collective of whites, at heart, I'm introspective and bright, not a dull shade of gray like platinum, nor am I gunmetal, chrome, or aluminum. I'm a gleaming element when added to oil. I help artists to reflect light like foil. My versatility is prized in technology such as touchscreens, circus, and dentistry. An antimicrobial, I fight infection, worn as a bracelet, aid flu prevention. I am silver, feminine in quality, aligned with the moon, a celestial body. I am silver, refined and sleek, the color of grace, a hint of mystique. And I am silver, ductile, and malleable, willing to change, soft and flexible. I'm a metal with flair and fortitude. I'm more than a color. Call me attitude. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so much. That was really wonderful. What a great night. Everybody read such powerful and just wonderful, wonderful work. I can't thank you enough for being a part of this series, and thank you to the audience tonight for being here. And if you would like to stay for a few minutes, you can talk to the writers for a few minutes if you'd like, and then we'll call it a night. I'm going to turn off the recording now.